Now, on the Georgia vote, more candidates are running for governor, but where do they fit within their political parties? A Hail Mary attempt by the Fulton County District Attorney not answered, leaving an investigation into the 2020 election in limbo. Plus, she was once a Democrat, now she's a Republican, running for the top education post in Georgia, why she's challenging a 3-term incumbent from her own party. All right now on the Georgia Vote.
From the 11 Alive studios, this is the Georgia Vote with Faith Jessie and Zach Merchant.
Hey, good Sunday morning. Welcome to the Georgia Vote. Zach is off this week. Well, 2 more entrants into the race to become Georgia's next governor. Jeff Duncan, the state's former Republican lieutenant governor, he will run as a Democrat. And 2-term Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, he is also in the race. Raffensperger hopes to follow in the footsteps of current Governor Brian Kemp, who went from the Secretary of State's office to the governor's mansion. Well, Duncan, he hit the campaign trail this week, beginning at a small business called Black Coffee Atlanta. While he was lieutenant governor, Duncan took an unusually public stand against then-President Donald Trump when Trump, without evidence, hotly disputed the 2020 election results here in Georgia. Duncan declined to run for re-election in 2022, and then he left the GOP. He says he's changed his stances on abortion rights, expanding Medicaid in Georgia, and on guns. His views now align more with traditional Democrats.
And for me, on the abortion law, I was wrong to think a room full of legislators knew better than millions of women across the state. It's abundantly clear that women deserve the right to choose. I stand with the 90% of Georgians who want to have universal background checks. I stand with the 85% that want to have red flag laws. That's the lens I look through. So, yeah, it's honest conversations.
Well, on the other side of the aisle, Raffensperger announced his candidacy this week with a campaign ad. The Secretary of State gained national prominence for his fierce defense of Georgia's election system in the wake of the 2020 presidential election. Now, one of his GOP primary opponents, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, questioned the validity of those results. There are now more than 20 candidates who have filed paperwork with the Georgia Ethics Commission to run for governor. Some of the more prominent names on the Republican side are Jones, Raffensperger, and current Attorney General Chris Carr. Duncan joins a crowded field of Democrats. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, Pastor Olu Brown, State Senator Jason Estevez, that's former State Senator Jason Estevez, State Representative Derek Jackson, and former DeKalb County CEO Mike Thurman. They are just some of the names hoping to win in 2026. On Tuesday, the Georgia Supreme Court released a major decision in the Fulton County 2020 election interference case, where President Donald Trump and 18 others are accused of illegally trying to overturn Georgia's presidential election results. Their ruling allows the decision to disqualify Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis from that case to stand. Zach Merchant has covered the case since it started. He looks at what comes next.
This is the biggest case in the history of American jurisprudence.
Former DeKalb County District Attorney Robert James says the Fulton County prosecution of President Donald Trump and more than a dozen co-defendants has no comparison.
There is no prosecutor that has ever lived that's brought a bigger, more important case.
But now Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, the prosecutor who brought the charges, is off the case. Following the Georgia Supreme Court's ruling allowing her disqualification to stand, she said she'll now prepare to transfer jurisdiction to the Prosecuting Attorney's Council of Georgia, an independent third party tasked with finding a new prosecutor to lead the case. In a written statement, she said in part, quote, "I hope that whoever is assigned to handle the case will have the courage to do what the evidence and the law demand." Prosecuting Attorney's Council Executive Director Pete Skandalakis says he'll look for another DA's office or qualified attorney to take it on, but admits it may be difficult. James said any new prosecutor would have to answer big questions before agreeing.
Do we have the bandwidth for it, the emotional and psychological bandwidth for it, or is it something that we just rather not be involved with? The second thing is, do we have the resources?
But that does not mean the case is dead. Skandalakis said if he can't find an outside prosecutor to take it on, the Prosecuting Attorney's Council might take the case itself. In a phone interview, he said, quote, "I think it's important that a conflict prosecutor, a neutral person, takes this case and makes a decision."
Now, how quickly that could happen is the big question here. Skandalakis told us that he hopes to have a new prosecutor lined up by the time they formally take jurisdiction of the case. He expects that to happen in about a month. Well, the funeral for conservative activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, that is scheduled for later today. There was a lot of discussion on social media and on the national airwaves about Kirk's past comments and talks on social media and his legacy. And here in Metro Atlanta, employees are losing their jobs or being investigated because of what they're writing on social media. The Cobb County School District investigated more than a dozen employees who made social media posts about the death of Charlie Kirk. Superintendent Chris Ragsdale says that the district launched human resource complaints against teachers and district employees for posts that appear to celebrate Kirk's death. At a school board meeting Thursday, some parents said that they supported this decision, but others told the board members that the investigation crosses a line. And we have seen things happen on a national level, too, all the way to late night comedy. So let's bring in our political roundtable to talk about this. Today, we have Fal Sabak, Assistant Vice President of McGuire Woods Consulting and former Executive Director of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus. Republican strategist Deanna Harris. She serves as managing partner at Midnight Rider Consulting and the former Republican nominee for Georgia House District 41. Also joining us is Rahul Bali, politics reporter at WABE 90.1 FM on your radio. He's also the co-chair of the Atlanta Press Club Debate Committee. And there are some big debates coming up next month, October 8th, putting that plug in right there. Welcome to panel. But we do start off on a somber note in America. A lot of people having differing opinions about the comments made about Charlie Kirk's death. Deanna, I want to bring you in here because a lot of this is surrounding the question of free speech. Some people say that this is an attack on free speech, and others are saying that these decisions are being made because people are trying to cozy up to Donald Trump. Right. What are your thoughts?
Well, as a conservative who is staunch on protecting the right of free speech, but I also understand the Republican Party's interest to honor Charlie Kirk, there's a fine line in between the both, right? And I kind of think that we've crossed it a little bit with, you know, the canceling of all the different individuals who have stated their public opinion. Now, with free speech, of course, you know, someone's opinion may hurt you, may offend you, but we can't let what's happening right now weigh in on defending our current freedoms, right? We don't want to, the Republican Party does not want to be the next cancel culture party. We have to avoid that.
And Fallon, on a political level, could what we see here politically sour the taste of those who might be in the middle to the Republican Party?
I mean, I think it'll. I think so. But on the opposite end, if I'm a moderate who's in the middle and I'm seeing posts where it's celebrating somebody's tragic death, I'm not going to be very happy about either. But I mean, if I'm seeing now all of a sudden, you know, we just saw a late night comedy show host get pulled off the air indefinitely. If that keeps going in that trend, that's going to be very concerning for those in the middle, because then what's going to come next?
Raul, let me bring you in on here.
And I think another piece of the fallout from all this is going to be the security and access around political figures. And the reason I think about this is I was at the Rivian groundbreaking ceremony. There was a noticeable amount of extra law enforcement, and they had an edge. And Governor Kemp, unprompted, even mentioned it. Something I'm going to be watching for is what is the access is going to look like to candidates on the campaign trail for just regular folks and at the state capitol when we go back to session in January.
That security, no question, is going to be a big thing. Guys, if we could switch gears a little bit, we did have a lot of big headlines this week when it comes to the race for 2026. Let's start with former Republican Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. No secret that he might run as a Democrat. He officially made that a thing. Fal, how does he get past his past comments and his past stances as a staunch Republican? Yeah,
absolutely. I think what former Lieutenant Governor Duncan has to do, really, he has to go to the voters and make his case. And for him, the case might be a little longer and lengthier in terms of he needs to have that full discussion on, this is what I believed before, these are the questions that I started having, and he had a front row seat to what was going on 2018, 2020. And then what kind of made him change his viewpoints and then why he ended up where he is right now. I think he has to have that full conversation with voters for them to appreciate where he is now.
And it's going to be a question on if it can be believable or not, Raul.
That is actually what I want to see. I want to see what those conversations are like. I wasn't able to make that event that he had earlier this week, but how does he answer those questions? What does he actually say on an issue like abortion rights, or as you heard in his comments about around gun regulations? What actually would bring a Democrat? The argument being made by his staff is that he has an electability argument that he can win in November. The question is, what does he do in the primary?
Exactly. The primary comes first. Deanna, I want to bring you in when it comes to Raffensperger, who is popular and not popular, depending on who you ask. A specific phone call kind of muddied up the water for him there. How do you see him playing in the primary?
Well, in his commercial, he speaks about bringing more jobs and lowering taxes for Georgians, which that is believable because he's a successful businessman. But you have to remember, he has to win the base, who are going to go really on his record with election integrity, and that is what the Republican base really focuses on when it comes to Raffensperger, because he's had such a tough relationship with our current president. So that'll be interesting to see.
On that note, we're going to take a quick pause. We will see you all on the other side of the commercial. Welcome back. Well, Misha Maynor is a former state representative looking to make a return to elected office. She recently announced that she is running for state school superintendent. Zach Merchant sat down with her this week.
Now, you're running in this race as a Republican.
Yes, proudly.
Not too many years ago, you were a state legislator with the Democratic Party.
I was.
What made you switch parties?
I switched for lots of things. A lot of people think it was because of educational freedom or school vouchers or parent choice. It was for all of those reasons, but in addition to that, as a Democrat, I voted not to defund the police. My values really align more with the Republican Party, and I think that the Democrat Party has been changing progressively over the years, and it's not that I left the party, it's more so the party left me and all the other former Democrats.
You are running against an incumbent of your own party.
Yes.
What made you want to do that?
You can look at the data. The nation's report card just came out. The points in the school system for the Department of Education of Georgia have constantly gone down. Do we continue to support incapability? No, that is not the Republican way. The Republican way is capability. The Republican way is making sure tax dollars are spent appropriately. And so no one wants in my opinion, no one should really want an incumbent that's in office that is not really capable of doing the job that parents want him to be doing.
You have concerns about the performance of Georgia's schools. If you win this race, what would you do differently to fix it?
I am going to bring something called a pass system. What I feel like, if students must pass their grade every year, then the Georgia Department of Education must pass as well. So right now, parents, community members, no one really knows who the state school superintendent is. No one knows what that role is. And so, one, we need to make sure that people are aware of the office so their needs can be met. Two, the P stands for parental rights or advocacy. So, one, just making sure parents have a voice. I plan on adding a parent advisory council to different regions of the area so I can really hear from the parents and understand what their needs and concerns are. A is for accountability. That is the return on investment that I was talking about earlier. There are no metrics right now to say, hey, we're spending this much money per pupil on funding, but how does that correlate to the nation's report card, if you will, right? The second thing is student success. So right now we are not performing the way we should. Literacy rates are low, simple math. It's hard for a lot of children. There are some schools in the state where it's 0% reading proficiency. A lot of those districts or schools were in the district that I just recently represented. And the S is just exceptional customer service.
Well, the current state superintendent, Richard Woods, who is running for re-election, he sent us a statement in response to Mainor's claims about the nation's report card. He says it's simply untrue that the NAEP, or Nation's Report Card data just released, show performance decreasing in Georgia. The recent NAEP release contained no state-level data at all. It was a report on a small administration nationwide with results reported at the national level only. The statement also would not be a fair interpretation of the facts when applied to the most recent NAEP release that did include state-level scores in January 2025. In all subject areas, Georgia's student performance was not considered significantly different compared to 2022. The superintendent also referred us to other metrics. He says there were mathematics gains on the Georgia Milestones assessments, consistent increases in the Georgia graduation rate, and Georgia continually outpacing the nation on the SAT and ACT. The superintendent also pushing back on Mainor's claims of 0% reading efficiency in some Georgia schools, saying there are no traditional public schools with 0% of students reading at or above grade level in the state. That single school that meets the metric is one grade level at an alternative school with 22 students in the grade level. We are hoping to have Superintendent Woods here for an interview on the Georgia vote. Well, the next big election in the metro in Atlanta, it is Tuesday. That is when voters decide the next state senator from District 21. That includes parts of northern Fulton County as well as parts of Cherokee County. Democrat Deborah Shigley and Republican Jason Dickerson are in the runoff. We did share our interview with Shigley last week on the Georgia vote. We did invite Dickerson on our show, but he declined, saying that he wants to spend time connecting with voters before Tuesday. So we want to talk about this race with our panel who is back here. Raul, let me start with you. Shigley really made headlines here, getting almost 40% of the vote, but she was the only Democrat in this race. The other part of the vote divided by several Republicans. How does she do here in the runoff?
It's an uphill battle because, remember, Brandon Beach, who held the seat, he almost won by almost a 40% margin. And I'm always careful with special elections. You know, this one's in September. You know, a lot of people may not be paying attention. Special elections pull in a small number of voters. All that being said, Democrats are hoping that maybe they can grab a seat in the state Senate. And it's a symbolic victory that hey, we grabbed a seat in the current era and this is what's going on. So will Democrats celebrate if they win it? Possibly. Republicans, whether it's now or next year, they expect to hold that seat.
Yeah, and Phil, let me bring you in here, too, because not only would it be a symbolic victory, obviously we don't know what she's going to do, but I know that strategists, they're going to be paying really close attention to this because you're talking about a suburban district.
Oh, yeah. So in 2018, we saw the post-Trump kind of effect where a lot of the suburban districts went Democrat. And so we've been seeing across the nation, too, a lot of these special elections have been going Democrat, too. It'll be interesting to see if that trend does hold up this year.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, Deanna, I mean, that's a red district that will remain red.
Yeah.
Which strategist, is it just a big, everybody's making it a bigger deal than it is?
All right. Usually local elections don't make these type of headlines, right? It's only with the local papers. But with this election being in the dead heat of the summer, again, like you said, having such a low turnout, I think that the Republican candidate really needs to tap into the grassroots and also into Senator Beach's network as well. You know, use that to bring in the voters and turn out the vote this coming Tuesday.
Well, it's certainly going to be a tale of elections. We will see the results this Tuesday. Of course, we will continue to follow them and give you all an update on the election when those results come out. A big thanks to our panel. We will see you guys back on the other side of the break. Welcome back. Hyundai will continue its Georgia expansion, investing nearly $3 billion in the Peach State during the next 3 years. The company appears to be bullish on Georgia, despite the immigration raid earlier this month at a South Georgia plant. Earlier this week at the groundbreaking for a Rivian plant in Social Circle, Governor Kemp took a couple questions on the raid. He said that he's not too worried about the effect on the future or current Georgia business, saying that there's been positive conversations with both companies already here and those who may come in the future.
At the end of the day, I don't think that's going to affect us because we got a great business environment. We got a great workforce, and we got a great place to do business, and also we got a place that's got a great quality of life. And at the end of the day, that's going to win out.
Up next, our voice of the voter is a fixture in Atlanta's entertainment scene and on your TV screen. In a time of political division, she's hoping her new space can help bring people together. This week, our Voice of the Voter takes us to downtown Atlanta, where we meet with longtime Atlanta resident and entertainer Carly Redd. She's known for her role on the hit reality show Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. And in a time of political division, she's hoping that her new restaurant can help spread more of the love in the city she calls home. We are in the heart of Atlanta with Carly Redd in your new space here.
I'm back, and I'm back to business. Got my new restaurant, Red Room Bistro.
My other restaurant is red, so is this. Cheers, everything is red. And it just goes with the name, Red Room Bistro. I learned a lot about, just customer service, feeding people. I want to bring that here. So just making it a staple in Atlanta. I make everyone feel at my restaurant like they're family. If they feel like they're family, then they're going to stay with you forever. I don't make them feel like, oh, this is just a job. I make them feel like they're family.
You're part of it.
Yeah.
We're building together.
We're building together.
And I like that because it doesn't only give my flavor or my take to something. Everybody gets a say on how something eats. I might not like cilantro, but they might like cilantro, but it tastes good with that dish in that specific time. So I add it. I don't do it because I like it. I do it because it will make the customer happy or other people.
So we have a spread on the table. Can you tell me about a couple of the dishes? And I know that you come from a Caribbean home, right?
Yes.
So there's a little bit of that inspiration on the table too.
Yes, it is Caribbean infused. We have here our snapper, and it's like it's a little spicy. I want to bring in all people from all walks of life, and it's also about giving the community employment opportunities.
What is your biggest concern right now?
My biggest concern is that people just forget themselves. People just forget themselves. You have to love yourself and love your loved ones. And that's what's going on in the economy and the industry these days. It's just like people are just not loving themselves, and they're taking that love, not so love for themselves, and they're just putting it off on other people. Love yourself and also love your loved ones.
What are you optimistic and hopeful about when it comes to just the people of Atlanta, your community, your tribe?
And my hope is that they come together and help each other. I always tell everyone, dreams do come true. Don't ever let your dream go by without you fulfilling it. No matter what, sow your seed, and one day your dream will come true. Work hard, motivate yourself, love on yourself. Dreams do come true.
A message of hope, unity, and love that we all need so much. A big thanks to Carly Redd for that conversation. We hope to see you back here next Sunday at 11 a.m. for another edition of The Georgia Vote. Thanks so much for watching.